Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to the
Okay.
Fun Show
Very good.
on Big TV. This is the June 22nd edition of the Big TV Fun Show. And I'm going to vamp here saying nonsense until our maestro puts his fingers on the keyboards and plays something. Around the town.
That's not the same song we started, is
No,
it?
of course
No, of
not.
course not.
We weren't expecting
You
that.
never play the song
Right.
we rehearse. That's the one thing we know.
Yes.
Wait, what about the other song?
Bicycle
Oh,
built for two.
How does it go?
It just comes to you, and then you have to think
You
about
look
it.
Sweet upon the seat of a bicycle built for two. I play that in honor of John Dempsey, the Brookline bicycle maven.
What about Tom?
Wait a
Tom,
second.
Tom.
Michael Sallin, Kira Minor, Arch O'Reilly,
Kira Minor, Arch O'Reilly, Harry Goodman.
Harry Goodman.
Harry Goodman. When did you
No
become
wonder
Harry?
you sound better today, Harry.
Yeah.
Also,
I used to have longer hair.
Our
too.
neighbor Tom Brady
Yeah.
beards the lion in his den tomorrow, takes on Roger Goodell over this ridiculous suspension that he has.
So make a prediction about Tom.
Everybody's saying,
I think that they're gonna have to cut him some slack. I think there's enough public uproar about it that it's just gonna get ugly if they don't.
Okay, he's going to make a prediction.
there's a lot of speculation that they'll cut one game, two game off of his suspension, that some kind of deal was made, that Kraft caved in order to make a deal, etc. My prediction is they will probably come up with something like cutting it to a 2-day suspension, and Tom Brady will immediately file suit in federal court
Very good.
and take Roger Goodell right through the federal courts with his nose in the mud. And if he does, Tom Brady will be my hero.
All righty
He's
then.
going to do it. He's going to do it.
I hope so. I hope he's got more guts than his boss, because his
No,
boss
I know.
doesn't have
he
enough guts to
he
eat
caved
dinner.
in. Yeah, he did cave in. Yeah, I didn't like that either. I thought it was terrible. Well, Belichick isn't worried. He hired two other people he's got to back up Tom.
Two others?
Yeah, there's two now. He's got another fella he brought in. I forget his name, but he's pretty good. He's been playing quarterback around about 4 or 5 teams.
You know, this is usually not a diagnosis of very good. You know, you're just good enough to be signed, but you can't hang in any team. He's had like a 7-year career, and he's been with 5 different teams.
But he can throw
It's
the
not a good
ball.
sign.
And
That's enough in this situation.
he only needs him to back up his other guy for 4
Garofalo.
games at the most.
How do
So
you
what the
pronounce
heck?
that?
Garofalo. So no,
Garofalo.
that's not it. That's
But
Gene Garofalo.
He's a
the,
Yeah,
bright.
I know.
He's a bright.
He may be
handsome
very
guy.
good.
Yeah,
He may be very good.
He's
Who
big
knows?
like Tom. He looks good.
We'll
We'll see him out there. I'm hoping.
We'll find out.
We'll find out. You're right.
Well, I must say that there's been a fairly nice change of heart today. The attractive young lady who's the governor of South Carolina.
Oh, we
As-
specifically let in with the fact that she's attractive. So if she had been a homely, would you have started with
No, I
the
wouldn't have.
unattractive?
No, I probably would have been a little more delicate.
I
than
would have
that.
said she's a
Okay.
homely
Is she that
person.
attractive?
No, but actually, what I probably would have said is that the fairly new and fairly young female governor of South Carolina.
Okay, so she's
I would-
young, which makes her more attractive.
I would have said if she's a Republican, what do you expect? You know.
If she's a Republican, I shouldn't say anything nice about her.
well,
but,
she is Republican.
So what about her? I didn't mean to interrupt. I mean, I did mean to interrupt.
well, the story's pretty well
She climbed up to the
derailed
top
now.
of the Capitol.
No, she's come out to remove the Confederate flag.
Hey, I
from
thought she was
the-
going to climb up
from
and
the
take it down herself.
Capitol grounds.
So what's she
shimmy
doing?
down. Shimmy.
Exactly. Is she going to get up there with a ladder and take it down herself?
I don't think so.
A
You know, it's-
200-foot
You
ladder.
know how strange it is? The Confederate flag in South Carolina is covered by statute. No one is allowed to touch that flag flying on the State House grounds.
Who would want
They
to?
can't even lower it to half staff. you know.
I would that in there
I
on
would cut
purpose.
it down myself with
Somebody's
a hacksaw
gonna
or
have to,
something.
like-
Yeah.
In any case, she's changed her tune, and she's now come out in favor of doing it. Which
I think it's a good idea.
which-
Well, with everything going on, how could they not?
Well, our
take some
Governor
sort of
Baker,
action?
he thought,
Well,
well,
wait a
it's up to
second.
each state makes up their own.
Well, actually, that was the genius among the. What are there now? 12 Republican candidates for president at the present time.
But my favorite,
And one of them, Mike Huckabee, he's a real winner.
he's a winner.
Mike
He's very
Huckabee-
religious, though. Very
Yeah, he
religious,
says-
and plays the banjo.
He says the.
It's going to be like watching a
Go on.
episode of the Hillbillies.
He is a hillbilly.
Well, he's come out with a very definitive statement that the Confederate battle flag is a states' rights issue.
That's right.
That
Why
it's
can't
up
they?
to each state what they do with the battle flag.
Why don't they put it in the museum and forget about it?
And another great
what'll
genius who's running for the Republican nomination for president, Ted Cruz, the Canadian candidate for president of the
A
United
great
States.
American from Canada. Okay.
We've got a lot of great Americans from Canada.
or Cuba, whatever it is.
No, he's
He says that the shooting was an accident.
an accident.
He didn't really say that.
He did.
Yeah, he said the gun
did.
ran off,
Yeah.
accidentally shoot.
Yeah.
How do people get away with saying such
20 some odd.
stupid things?
Well, and then the vice president of the National Rifle Association blamed the entire thing on the pastor who was killed
Yeah.
because the pastor
What a
had
t-
objected
I know.
to guns in his church.
What a terrible.
And if he hadn't,
what a
none
rotten,
of this would
yeah.
have happened.
What a
just
rotten
ridiculous.
thing to say.
And then a couple of the other Republicans who were pretending to run for president
'Cause
have
none
tried
happened.
very hard to say that this was not a racial incident, it was Christians under attack. As if this young man went to the oldest historical black church in America because he didn't know anywhere else to find Christians to
Yeah,
attack.
it's not even
Kind
plausible.
of
None of
interesting.
those things are plausible.
They are to them, apparently.
we
Why does
don't
that
hear
come out of
anything
their
from
mouth?
Boehner. Nothing on all of this.
Orange is the new black.
Love that show.
That's Boehner.
Okay.
Yeah, all right, okay.
That was one of the best lines ever written.
Yeah.
Who
said it?
Obama.
Obama.
The
Yeah, you're right. I remember now. Yeah.
the Republicans last year were giving Boehner a hard time. He was supposed to be their leader, but they were giving him a really hard time. And he said, "When I see what a hard time they're giving him, I realize orange is the new black."
That's funny.
That's a great line.
That is a great
That was a
line.
good line.
Yeah.
Good line.
Love that guy. Not Boehner.
So,
Obama.
in any case, we had this tragedy in South Carolina, and everybody's
Well, it's
going
terrorist of a hate crime. Or are they both synonymous or something? What?
Well, these days it's like you begin to think that the newspapers have already set all the words in type, and they've got to find a way to write the story where they can use the words they already have in type. You know, we didn't call Lee Harvey Oswald terrorism,
No.
right?
But it really was domestic terrorism. That was an act. I mean, guy with that
Absolutely.
truck of explosives and all the kids he blew up also. What, 170 people?
You're talking Oklahoma City?
Yeah.
Trying to
Okay.
keep track of.
I have to keep track of the
Yeah,
segues
like
here.
you segued
I
to
mean,
someone. What is he talking
that's
about?
to me, that's a terrorist act.
Well, that was called domestic terrorism,
Yeah.
but this is one single demented fellow who went and did unspeakable things, but not everything's terrorism.
Well, it's hate and terror. That's all
Yeah.
I'm saying. It's both. Okay. What do you think?
And not
Absolutely.
And not
Hate and
everybody who
terror.
ever put on a uniform is a hero.
No.
That's true also. Okay.
But
All right.
now, another thing
Senseless violence.
Okay.
to totally change, I was very, very amused the other day when a guy named Alex Rodriguez, who plays for the hated Pinstripes in New York, hit, what was it, his 3,000th
3,000th hit.
and it happened to be a home
Home
run.
run.
and the person who caught the ball will not give it back to him.
I don't blame him. Why?
No.
I don't know that I would give it back either.
I think it's great.
He paid his admission.
Right.
It was
Well,
okay for
Why
that
does
poor
he think he
woman.
should get it back?
That poor woman gets hit
Because-
in the face with a piece of a bat, and she's in the hospital almost dying. We have nothing to do with
Somebody probably autographed the bat for her, but
that. Yeah.
no,
thanks.
it's been traditional that you get
Yeah.
one of those things and they give you a bunch of souvenirs and they let you shake hands with the player and you dutifully pass over the
5
thing.
hot dogs.
This guy apparently has made his whole life to snagging and collecting baseballs. I mean, he goes to a game and routinely comes out with 10 to 20 balls. You know,
Wow.
that's his thing.
Foul ball.
But I think it's great because it's A-Rod. Because I don't think A-Rod has one iota more right to be on a professional baseball field than Pete Rose does.
No.
I think it's a total disgrace that they're letting him play baseball,
for what he was taking.
you know? And they're still holding Pete Rose out. He's totally banned from baseball. He can't even go to the park and watch his son play.
No. They said.
And
crazy.
A-Rod
But
is...
the New York Times said they were thinking of putting him in the Hall of Fame.
Pete Rose or
Pete Rose.
A-Rod?
Pete Rose.
I thought he can't go in the Hall of Fame.
well, I'm
at
saying
the present time he can't.
they're
Okay.
changing.
So they're
their-
working on
They're changing their
doing
tune. I
something.
don't know.
Because he took the fall for a lot of.
Anyway, A-Rod
Bad
shouldn't be
things.
playing. And therefore, I think it's great that somebody won't give him his baseball back.
So that's
Good.
kind of mean and spiteful of you, Arch. Are you a mean and
Well,
spiteful?
I agree with him. I don't want that guy to give up that ball to A-Rod. The hell with
I don't
him.
either.
You know, after all, they're going to have to roll all these records back and take them out of the book anyway, you know. Because this guy, actually, the guy who's hiring the planes to go to all these golfing events with the banner they're carrying
Yeah.
to torment Tiger Woods,
What does the banner say?
it should be rerouted to fly over any place that A-Rod plays. It says cheater. It says cheater.
Gotcha. What did you hand me here?
Something that says
Newton fights to remain exclusive.
Exclusive of what? Is that
exactly.
my friend Seti?
That is Seti. I like Seti.
Oh, I thought you might like
My
to see
cousin
that.
Seti.
He's your cousin?
Seti and I are cousins by mutual agreement.
Nice.
Your cousins by mutual agreement?
That's right. I made the
Housing.
agreement with his father years ago.
Well,
And-
said he's dying to get something bigger.
And at
Housing.
his father's funeral, Seti and I renewed the agreement.
Oh,
We are
okay.
remaining cousins by mutual agreement. So-
Nice. That's cute. But I think it's housing. It has to do with, keeping affordable housing out of Newton.
Out of Newton?
I think so. I think that's what it means.
Really?
Critics argue that the ramifications of Newton's stance could stymie affordable housing development throughout the Commonwealth. So it's directly related to
Yeah, they don't wanna-
keeping
they
out
don't
affordable
want,
housing. They don't want the riffraff.
Yeah, they want affordable housing in Newton. They don't want that. We got
know,
that
I'm
problem
gonna
with
have
that
to
great big
abstain from
development down in
commenting.
South Brookline. What about that?
Hancock Village.
Well, it's a part. Is it going to be a part of it, or is it never going to be built, or what? What do you think? You know a lot about housing.
I'm unable to answer that question without any preparation for
All
it.
right, but you do know about housing, though. Okay.
Well, hopefully I know a little bit about housing. I ran the housing authority
Well,
for
that's
13
why-
years.
Who else would I
Yes.
ask at this table for an opinion? And you will research that and come back. What about kindergarten?
What about kindergarten? The end of kindergarten. Headlines say the end of kindergarten.
So, do you agree?
I think it's just a headline that doesn't actually accurately reflect what's going on. Do I think kindergartners should be tested? I don't know. I don't have enough information to actually say definitively one way or the other. Because who's to say that if you do it in a certain type of structure that it's the worst thing in the world?
Well, there were a lot of parents out there who send their kids to these special programs, pre-kindergarten, as he said before we got in here, Arch said. And they want these kids to go to Yale, Harvard, Stanford, Princeton, if they can get them
Nothing
in.
wrong with that.
No, I'm not
As
saying
long as
there
they
is.
make enough money to support you in your old age, then you've done what you needed
Wait
to
a
do,
minute.
right? What's the point of sending them to those schools if they're not
Nobody's
to make
supporting
That's a real
me,
Seinfeld
and I'm
opinion.
old.
It just seems logical. Why do your kids need to go to those
Yeah,
schools?
my only duty to my children is that they earn enough money to support me in my
Boom.
old age.
That's right.
My
Exactly. What else? Think about it. What else is there?
Yes.
my grandson.
Have you told your son this?
Oh, he knows
Yes.
it's his job to support me later on in life.
My
Absolutely.
grandson George in England.
Yes.
George, when he was 2, a little over 2, he was one day I was with him over there in London and where they live, and he started reading
At
the
2?
headline in the paper.
Yeah.
And I had some kids' books to read. He had brought some books from. My son-in-law doesn't buy books. Too many words.
Too many words.
Too many words. Too many words.
He'd like to buy a book with very few words.
Pictures.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Keep it simple.
Anyways,
Fan of
George.
Dr. Seuss.
George had figured out what the alphabet was
Yeah.
and the sounds, and
Yeah.
he put them together, and he was reading.
Wow.
Yeah. His father said to me later on, when he was older, he said to me, "He'll never amount to anything. No, I don't even know. He shouldn't go to college. He doesn't not smart enough to do anything."
You should have said it takes after his father. That's what your answer should have been.
That's what he was thinking. I'm sure it was one of the many times he bit his tongue.
I did bite my tongue. Anyways, okay.
He's
So-
now brilliant, and
So did
how old
you-
is
He's
he
a
now?
college graduate, not thanks to his father.
Did your son-in-law take it personally that they named the prince after his son?
He wanted George and Harry. That's the names he gave his 2 grandsons. George, Prince George, and Prince Harry.
Do both your grandchildren speak with English accents?
Of course, of course. Like him. He speaks with an English accent too.
Only by choice.
But my son-in-law is the lord of the manor.
Yeah. I can't.
We have to read our
I
play.
can't do. I can do a lot of English accents, but what I can't do
Palming.
is little kids' English accents.
Oh, that's
They're
bad.
really cute.
Okay.
They're really
That'll
cute.
just come out
Okay,
creepy.
what do you
Don't
got
it.
there?
They're hard to do.
We have 10 minutes.
Well, I have
Wait
some
a minute.
interesting and not particularly encouraging facts about things.
We didn't read this, did we?
No. The median family income in the United States today is almost $5,000 less than it was in 1999. The wealthiest 14 people, we could get
14.
them in this room. 14
You
people
kindergartens can't count to 14. All right.
have increased their wealth more than the bottom 130 million Americans combined.
That's insane.
And you didn't even talk about the Supreme Court if it throws out that.
Well, that's the funny thing on the Affordable Care Act.
Yeah.
Now the people who brought the suit
worrying.
are down on their knees in their bedrooms praying that they don't win.
Because
It's ironic.
everybody, 6.4 million people will lose health care if
Wow.
the Supreme Court
And they finally realize
Wow.
that they're going to get blamed.
subsidies
Yes.
on these 3 words about subsidies.
Excellent.
Well, go ahead.
Anyway, so
But you
it's,
gotta hurry because we won't get in multitasking.
all right.
We'll come back.
Anyway, this is a little thing here, very interesting.
Who wrote it?
Bernie Sanders.
Bernie Sanders.
Bernie Sanders, my candidate for president of the United
Okay,
States.
there you are.
And he says
I like Trump myself.
he says it's time to say loudly and clearly that
Okay.
corporate greed and the war against the American middle class must end. Enough is enough. So
Okay, and Trump says
Hillary for president.
all those Mexicans that cross the border are criminals, murderers, rapists.
yeah.
That's
But
ridiculous.
some of them are okay. There's a
Yeah.
few that are pretty good.
No,
That's
he
what
didn't
said.
say that.
What an
He
idiot.
assumed that some of them were okay.
Okay, all right.
He didn't know that
right.
they were okay.
Okay,
He
get-
just assumed that they were
Oh
okay.
my goodness.
Yeah,
It just
wonderful.
gets the pain of the ignorance just
a
gets
wonderful,
more and more
a
painful.
wonderful human being. You know, as somebody said about him, it's taken his whole life. He still can't find a hairstyle. How's he going to beat ISIS? You know?
There you have it.
All right,
Hating
so-
on the man's hair.
Okay.
The big TV Unrehearsed Thespian Society's presentation today, reaching once more into the vault
The vault.
and bringing out a classic. And this classic,
8.5 years ago.
which refers to the George W. Bush administration,
and his cabinet.
is called multitasking.
Okay. Action.
You know, I hate the term human resources.
Why?
It's about geography.
You mean it's a country's resources?
Well, that's grade school stuff.
Coal, iron, forests, rivers.
I am not a resource.
True. We're how human beings.
Each one is different.
You can't dig me out of the side of a mountain.
Is Karl Rove a human resource?
President's deputy chief of staff.
Oh, you mean White House strategist?
Like VP Cheney?
He was a CEO with a board of directors.
Yeah, well, George has a cabinet,
Secretaries of the government departments?
but not human software.
Or digital things?
Robotic resources.
The Bible says we were created in God's image.
So, I am not a resource.
No matter what a personnel officer thinks, right?
So, Carl is a shrinking political counselor.
Or a therapist.
Used to be a direct mail expediter.
And his new employment?
Spending more time with his Texas family.
Lots of experience as an operations analyst
Plenty of moral fiber and character
He provides executive liaison.
with value options.
for principal solutions.
And does he barbecue ribs?
Not with tight underwear.
That's misguided dignity.
While creating political events?
Designing new weekend revelations.
Ingenious engineering.
Hedge fund companies might need a little hedge cutting.
Romney knows about cutting companies.
Carl isn't a financial wizard.
Well, he really raised a lot of campaign contributions once upon a time.
And he knows about crisis control.
Been called the architect of victory.
Do you believe any of this?
Don't forget maintenance.
Building bridges is part of the process.
Yeah? I thought global solutions were part of the process.
Well, he didn't invent this Wall Street crisis.
The collapse of the subprime mortgage markets.
What he invented was deregulation and how it improves government.
Real estate prices have been softening.
Foreclosures are up.
So the Feds makes a liquidity injection. Sounds offensive.
Cheap loans to banks, huh?
It's only a bookkeeping entry for the Federal Reserve.
Which exists to protect the banks.
But doesn't help the ex-homeowner.
Who had poor credit to begin with.
George is sad, but the free market operates.
Dan Rather isn't happy about all this either.
Doing a documentary.
Did you realize that bloggers are people too?
Talk show hosts have their place too.
So do stand-up comics.
Yeah? What about consultants?
All sizzle, no steak.
Doesn't matter. Fall is here.
Back to school.
Coming.
Shopping!
Oh, the vengeance for kids.
What if all this just doesn't happen?
All the news about stocks falling.
Might have an influence.
So might the hurricanes.
New Orleans schools suffered.
Still having big problems.
And they have families that can't return.
We're better prepared now.
Not if you listen to the presidential candidates.
What do they know? Health insurance isn't popular with any of them.
People will turn off.
Who'll be first with the primaries?
Dan Rather says there's problems with the voting machines.
Sour grapes.
Don't hear much about it.
Stuff didn't hurt George in Florida, did it?
Helped them win 2 terms, huh?
You guys never let up.
Whatever you say.
His brother was governor.
And there were real voting problems.
Yes.
Nothing came of the complaints.
But shouldn't we make sure for 2008?
Can't disagree with that.
Then why doesn't it come up in the debates?
Pretty important, I'd say.
Maybe too important.
Is that a veiled sort of slur?
If the truth hurts, make the most of it.
Don't get nasty.
Why can't we know more about those new machines?
A fair question.
Yeah? So when do we get a fair answer?
Don't worry, it's forthcoming.
Oh, well, now I feel a lot better.
Yeah, it's not personal. The country should know.
I don't think your apprehension is warranted.
Well, we'll soon learn more, right?
Not like the Chinese recalls.
Oh, you mean toys, regular or unleaded?
We and they need more oversight.
Yeah, especially when you consider how much we owe them.
Blackout.
Blackout. So
right.
much, so
you
much
did
for
it
that.
in the nick of time.
So there is now a discussion about adding a new face to American currency. Now that everybody's using their iPhones and their credit cards, and nobody sees currency anymore. It must be time to put a woman on the currency. However,
negative.
somewhere out of the blue they came up with a proposal to make it the $10 bill. And I have some sympathy for Ben Bernanke, the former chairman of the Fed, who's all bent out of shape about this.
He likes Hamilton.
Because he says it's a very poor choice to dump Alexander Hamilton.
Who was the
And,
first treasurer?
And he says the guy to go should be Andy Jackson.
I support that. I second that.
Right.
Yep.
And put a woman on the $20
What
bill.
woman
Amen.
will be put on
Hillary.
that? Wait a minute,
No.
she isn't
No,
No,
elected
no.
yet.
But
Well-
she's going to be elected. Hillary needs to go on the 20.
Okay.
I think she should go on
We
the 20.
don't put living people on our currency.
Well, then we'll have to get creative. I'm just kidding.
Marilyn Monroe?
No. Who would warrant
It
it?
is funny the people they're talking about. They're talking about people like Eleanor Roosevelt,
Eleanor Roosevelt.
Sojourner Truth,
No idea who that person is. It's going to be Eleanor.
some of the suffragettes.
Yeah,
you
there's
know,
a couple of them.
Susan B. Anthony.
Yeah.
She already has a
with
coin.
Nightingale?
She's already got a coin.
She was
doesn't
English.
get a-
Nobody uses the
Yes,
coin.
exactly. But she had her day in the coin. So Eleanor, I think, is the person.
Well, you won't get the Republicans to vote for it. That's going to be a problem.
Well,
I don't think Sacagawea is
No,
in
it's
the
not,
running.
No, no, it's not going to. She got a coin too. Once they get a
if-
coin, they do not get paper
well, you
money.
could have her coming out of
Except
a
for
wigwam.
Washington, right?
She could
Washington's
become-
not.
Washington, Jefferson has a coin.
a
Washington
teepee.
has.
Okay.
Lincoln
I'm okay
has a
with this.
coin.
I'm a hypocrite.
As
I'm okay with
As a
this.
matter of fact, every denomination of dollar bill has a coin. I
Fine.
think.
Sacagawea isn't bad, though. I like that.
Well, but the funny thing about putting Sacagawea on the
You
currency
got to put the baby on it
is,
too.
yeah, that
And-
was fun.
and
No,
the
but it was
teepee.
the funny thing was it's the first time we put somebody on the coinage that everybody went, who?
Yeah, exactly. But everyone learned something about Sacagawea.
It was good that they learned it. It was very useful, but it was interesting. They went, who? What is this?
I like the idea, though. I think we should have a woman in the currency.
It's time.
Yes, well, hopefully they'll have some real discussion about it.
That
on
Stein
things.
woman?
Huh? Gloria Steinem?
No, there was a woman named,
Edna.
you know, the one who was the writer.
Edith Stein?
Edith Stein, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I should know the women who come before
She
me.
gave a
but
lot
I
of money
don't.
to a lot of artists.
we could go for Martha Washington. I don't
Martha
know.
Washington. That's not bad, Martha.
The
I'm still
problem.
going to go with Eleanor.
The problem is that our history is not full
Of
of
women.
women in acknowledged positions
Exactly.
of power. Now, one of the things we might do is go for the first woman to be Secretary of the Treasury,
who
I can't remember at the moment.
What about Perkins?
Was it Margaret Smith
How about
Chase or
that?
something?
Wait a minute. What about that woman Perkins? Social Security. She was the Secretary of Labor
Rap.
under
The
Roosevelt.
first female cabinet member.
She was terrific.
We're gonna pick up right here next
right,
time.
okay.
Discussing who the women are.
Yes, you have to skip
maybe
next week because
anybody
I'm not
out
here
there
next week.
has a good
so
idea.
Yeah.
Give us a call in here. And
Send
we'll
it
throw-
along. Send it along.
Please.
Good
night, Irene. Good night, Irene. Irene, good night. Irene, good night. We'll see you in our dreams. Good night, Irene.
Irene.
Good night, everybody, from the Fun Show here at Big TV. We will, two of us will see you next week at the same
Sorry.
station. We will be bereft and without Kira.
How do you spell bereft?
You're gonna suffer without me. That's what I needed you to say.
We are going to suffer without
Excellent.
B.E.
I'll be back the
reft.
following
you.
meeting.
That's good. I
Reft.
like that.
B.E. reft.
You can
Yes.
do that.
Very good.